Welcome back, NoDQ Galaxy, to a brand new edition of the NoDQ Review, number 232, on this Easter Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we are live, pal. I am Virtue, the moderator, and as always, I am joined by this week's elite panel of the NoDQ Review, Aaron Rift, as always. Jerry Slaughter, the General, is back. Jeff Meacham is back. Son is back for 2 weeks in a row. Actually, it's the same week. We just did a show Tuesday night, so he is back. And Walter Cruz, as always, is not our new Mr. Reliable that has taken that role over from Big G, who seems like he is always busy, but when he is here, he is happy to be here. Gentlemen, what's up? Jerry, we'll make this quick. We want to get into these topics tonight. Jerry, what's up?
Oh, yeah. I haven't been on since before WrestleMania, so a little bit of news has happened from what I gather. I'm ready to talk about it for a few.
It's going to be fun. And one of our topics, we are going to compare Vince McMahon and Triple H. We're going to talk about the upcoming draft. And we might sprinkle some AEW, since I think I cut that out of last week's or last episode. So you AEW fans out there, stay tuned. Jeff Meacham, what's going on?
I am enjoying my Easter isolation because somewhere between SoFi Stadium and the Staples Center, I have reacquired the Rona. So life is rough today, but it is what it is. I'm here to talk about what's going on in the wrestling world because it's a pretty big deal.
How do you feel? Like, how right now with you having it? How do you feel? Like a cold, like the sniffle, sore throat, headache, maybe?
My throat is sore, very, very sore, but I chalk it up to more exhaustion from the week than the actual virus. But I do feel like I got hit by a truck, and then the truck backed up over me as far as the virus goes.
Interesting. Okay.
Very.
Well, anyway, imagine a truck backing over Jeff Meacham a couple times. He put that picture in everybody's head, so we can think about it.
Point that visual for the tower. There you go.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to you soon. Son, what's up? 2 shows in a row. I think this might be the first time ever you did that.
It's been a while since I've been on 2 shows, but yeah, here I am, basically ready to go. Rocky start last time, but ready right now. Hey everybody, son, Ghostwalker here, ready for a powerful NoDQ review.
Good having you on as always.
I mark out the sun.
Robbie Weiss will be back soon. I've been talking with him. So, the whole Robbie is coming, give it time. He'll be back. And you know what? You never know what he'll have to say. Walter Cruz, what's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again. And I'm just ready to get into it. There's 6 of us on together, so we got to jump into it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll keep it rolling. All right, Aaron. What's up?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to tonight's stream. We have some interesting topics. We're still feeling the effects of WrestleMania 39. Happy to have Jerry Slaughter back with us for the first time in a while. Happy to have Son with us 2 times in a row. That's rare. Love having Son on. And, of course, Mr. Reliable Walter Cruz, good old JM Jeff Meacham, even on a sick day, is here with us, which is much appreciated. And Virtue, you're here to moderate, as you have been for the past 230-plus episodes of the NoDQ Review. I'm looking forward to it. We already have some super chats, so let's get to those real quick before we get started. Mr. Tito sent in $2. Thank you, Tito. Says, happy Easter, lads. Hope everyone can lay some eggs.
Now,
you as well.
In the follow-ups, he says laying eggs means screwing, guys. That's laying pipe, Tito, but, that's okay. Laying eggs, means we're going to suck this show, but that's okay, too. That's all right. We're good.
Thank you for that, Tito. And Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. He says, today in history in 2000, Mike Awesome signs with WCW while he is still the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. He could have been a big star, in my opinion. I agree. He was somebody that could have been a big deal in WCW, but then he became the fat chick thriller. And then
Mr. That 70s guy.
Ugh.
Hey, didn't that lead to the awesome moment on ECW TV where it was WWE guy Taz and WCW guy Mike Awesome fighting for the ECW championship? That was crazy. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Isn't he the one that screwed up the whole invasion angle because he couldn't keep his mouth shut?
Well, no, that was Stasiak.
That was Stasiak, yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to type a comment back to that, but that's fine. Tito, I understand women have eggs. I understand.
Bye.
We lost
so
Jeff.
Much for that rebuttal, Jeff.
Oh,
looks like
wow.
Jeff's live stream feed laid an egg. It totally laid an egg.
Consummate professionals.
Oh, boy.
Consummate professionals.
Jeff, you're on
Go
mute.
figure he's getting the anime treatment when Son Goku
Jeff,
is
you are on mute.
Technical difficulties.
While
Please
Jeff
stand
is figuring
by.
that out, Aaron, any other super chats?
Yeah, we do have some super chats. Well, TJS is not on tonight, so who is Jeff going to blame for the stream going off the rails this week?
100% my fault.
Okay, then. He's out. Best wishes to Jeff. Hope he gets well soon. From
Whole other virus going on over there.
We're live, pal.
Anyways, I have no idea if he's coming back or not. We shall see. Mr. Tito sent in another $5 super chat. He said his draft prediction is it will suck. Not since the original 2002 draft, the 2006 one that brought Cena to Raw. I thought that was 2005. Or the 2016 split has it ever mattered. Virtue, we're going to talk about that later. I'm sure you have some opinions on it. And Tito, make sure you get your dates right if you're going to criticize WWE's booking of the drafts. Just saying. And
Well, that's how
Walter,
bad he thinks it sucks. He doesn't like it. It's not memorable to him, so he doesn't get the dates right.
I guess not. And Psycho Jet Black, I think Jeff is coming back here. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat, says, best car insurance rates in town, call 1-800-GENERAL now. How would you bring back Bray Wyatt since Vince is still around and people have soured on his gimmick? Well, Virtue, you're a Bray Wyatt guy. What would you do at this point? You're one of the few that defended him. You saw that tweet I sent out about like what letter grade you would give Bray Wyatt's run, and you were positive. So explain what you would do.
Like, look, I gave it a B because I knew everyone was going to give it a bad score. So I gave it a B because the guy comes back, does his convoluted things, barely wrestles, and still sells merchandise. So I always look at it from a business standpoint. But what would I do is next time he's available, right? Healthy, fit, whatever the issue is that's keeping him off creatively or whatever, health, physical, have him come back, put something on the Titantron where it's like rewind all that stuff we've seen. It's rewinding really fast. You know, their crew, their video crew is great. Just rewinding, and it goes all the way back to that first night he came back where he was in the ring and he cut that promo as himself. And then all of a sudden that stops and he's in the ring as himself and he starts over and he starts being himself from that point forward and starts wrestling.
That'd be cool.
Something just, I don't know, man. Just something like that. Rewind, reset.
People can
That's
say
what I
what
would
they
do.
want about him, but that rabbit thing was over, and they weren't 100% sure it was even him. So you can say what you want. He's still popular.
We'll see.
Welcome
what
back,
happens.
Jeff.
We'll see what happens.
How are you doing, and your thoughts on Bray Wyatt?
So first of all, on the super chat itself, I think SoCal Val will agree that the best insurance rates are for survival.
Yeah, true.
And if you know, you know. By the way, we actually brought that up we recorded a conversation, her and I, after the WrestleMania, but it got lost to time because my phone's a piece of shit. So it is what it is. As far as Bray, I thought that was going to be a topic on the show today, but I'm sorry. It was a thread on Facebook because Aaron asked people to rate Bray Wyatt's run so far. Virtue makes a good point. The merch sales are up. Doesn't matter what he's doing on TV.
Yeah.
Top 5 in the company. And
I mean,
in the company. So
because he's out, and they're they won't like just have him wrestle more often, like regularly.
right.
It drops the ball to a degree, because today's wrestling fans, most of them that we're going to hear from are the diehard wrestling fans that want matches, and if they don't get that, it's not going to be good, and they should know that. Like, I don't know.
Well,
So even I am saying it can be better.
Yeah, they should know. They just don't, or they choose to ignore the fact that they do, just to cause online discussion and shenanigans.
I think it's definitely salvageable. I think that Bray Wyatt could still be a big deal, and I think if they went with what I thought they were going to do at first, it has the potential to be a success. But we'll see what happens if he comes back soon and what they do with him. I do think that it can be fixed. But anyways, Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. He just wanted to let everybody know Welcome to the No DQ review. Please like and share this video. Say no to Cody, but yes to No DQ. Hashtag feel merchy. Hashtag stick to my shtick. Walter, why no to Cody?
Because Virtue's on here. I just had to.
Oh. Well, I think Virtue's fine with Cody winning the title. He just wanted Roman to get to 1,000 days.
And actually, to debunk Tito and go, and he won't back up WrestleNomics because he doesn't like those guys. I believe the Bloodline run of merchandise has Roman in like the top 3 all time with the biggest legends of all time WWE merch getters.
Yep,
that's the fact. Tito, go look it up. Like go to the WrestleNomics boys.
Wait a minute.
Now you can say it's because he's had it for so long. He's had so many pieces of merch. He's breaking records with the likes of Hogan, Stone Cold, The Rock. Okay, but again, merch is down. Oh boy.
I think
Anyways,
Stone Cold is number 1, right?
It's
All
down.
time,
Yeah.
I think he moved the most.
I mean, can we really trust Tito's knowledge of numbers when he wasn't even sure which year John Cena went to Raw?
Roman's an outlier, but the rest of them is way down. Okay, there I said it for you, Tito. There you go. And Bray Wyatt's in the rest of them category. All right.
All right, we can get moving on here.
Yeah.
We're caught up.
okay, good.
Tito, I just told you it's a fact that Roman's a top merch seller of all time already, and he's not even done yet. So whatever financials you have, you clearly go look him up. You prove it. All right, are you ready? Are we ready to start our first topic?
Let's do it.
Triple H, current head of creative for WWE. We know Vince McMahon, right, who took a $1 million wrestling promotion, a territory, and turned it into what is now $9 billion global juggernaut entertainment. And we know what happened with the fallout from Raw after Mania, right? Vince is in power and this and that, and people hated the show. Then you hear these dirt sheet rumors. No Vince at SmackDown. It's Triple H's show. And, what a great show SmackDown was. And let's just break this down. Let's go around here. What is the difference with Vince McMahon and Triple H? I think it's just that vocal minority who are behind Triple H because his version of NXT, he presents that wrestling that those diehard fans want, the in-ring action. Remember, before AEW was a thing, it was Triple H's NXT that those vocal minority always spoke about. And it was different. It was something, an alternate to Vince McMahon sports entertainment. When it's all said and done, during that time, Vince was supposedly away, right? During the allegations and all that stuff. What was really different? That Triple H's NXT people, wrestlers were on the main roster? Like that. But other than that, I'm scratching my head. So I'm going to start with you, Son. What do you think here between those two guys? What's the difference? What is really the difference here?
All right. Well, as someone who loves the storytelling aspect of professional wrestling, and I often look at a lot of those details, since Triple H has taken over, I can definitely say I love that these details have been brought up. For example, they bring up a lot of more of the history. Like if two guys or gals had a feud from like 6 years ago, they don't pretend like, hey, if it's a first meeting in a while, that they've never had a match before. I love that detail. Unfortunately, we hate to see any professional wrestler pass away, but it is really cool that they are acknowledging people who had an impact on the business that didn't work in WWE. Another thing that I really love that Triple H has been doing is long-term storytelling, which is something that it seemed like we weren't getting. I was just watching a clip the other day where Nakamura ended up getting attacked by Roman. It was a hilarious move, but then they didn't do anything with it after that. And I like that more often than not, they keep the attention going. Like Bayley, she came right back and went right for Bianca, picking where she left off. So I've loved that. The Intercontinental Championship, the mid-card titles, they mean so much more. So once again, these were things that were not being done under Vince McMahon in recent years. So there are a lot of things that I felt Triple H has done. Just the attention to story detail, better than what we've seen with Vince McMahon. But when it comes to Vince McMahon's prime, making those larger-than-life superstars, even Triple H in interviews has admit that when it comes to that, Vince McMahon is just a whole different level of genius. So we haven't seen Triple H yet. He's still under a little less under his year to where we can see if he can create those larger than life superstars. But I think it's those small details that he's made that have made an improvement to the show. It still has a far ways to go, but there have definitely been some improvements that I like to see continue to go on as we go through there. So that's where I would stand at. Triple H has definitely made a nice improvement, but he's still got a ways to go, but it's a lot better than some of the stuff we were having during Vince's later years.
So, I'm thinking of one guy when you say all that about the mid-card titles feel more important than this and that. Austin Theory, we knew he was a Vince McMahon guy, right? And he was right in that when Vince was still around. He was right in that U.S. title picture, the Money in the Bank picture. And then, remember, it kind of, Vince went away, or did he really go away? And then Theory kind of got, brake checked a little bit there and launched back. That's still a Vince McMahon thing. Like, he's still, is it because he's not taking the wrestlers that we all love from the indies like Triple H, and he's maybe handpicking the few that he sees a bigger picture with, like an Austin Theory? Like, I just feel like that bias is because his vision of superstars is different than like the Triple H's vision of professional wrestlers. And I think that's really where the disconnect. And Vince has some crappy ideas. Like, he always has. Like, even back when things were red hot, he's had crappy ideas. Triple H is going to have to go through this as well. Jeff Meacham, I know you're ready to talk, so I'm going to come over to you next.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can with this, with my throat, the way it's being. And Son made a lot of valid points I was already going to jump on, so I appreciate you making them for me so I don't have to talk not near as much today. Brother, appreciate that. Wow, that shot looks like shit when it's zoomed in. That's better. Damn camera angles. Television, pal. Anyway, the comment that was brought up in the chat room about Vince not creating stars, that he's just giving them a big stage, that's not entirely false. I mean, Hogan was a big star for Vince's father, went away, and then Vince brought him back. And ultimately, Hogan became the guy. Same with Steve Austin. Steve Austin was stunning at best in WCW and, was never going to get booked into the main event program. Same with Mick Foley. The Rock is a WWF creation by far. So, I think that's kind of a misnomer on the part of the fans that he hasn't created stars. He's just taken people that others didn't see as stars and made them into stars. So I think the main difference is at least seemingly Triple H's ability to think outside the creative box and not just stick to tried and true, because that is what ultimately works. Triple H seems more willing to try different things out on television than Vince has been in recent years. I mean, God, you can't say that about Vince back in the day. Back in the mid 90s when he was getting his butt kicked, he completely threw out his entire formula and, went on TV and said as much, we're not going to insult y'all's television anymore. We're going to go ahead and, present a more realistic formula, because he didn't say this part, but that's what's working on WCW. So we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. And it worked, to the fact that, he owns the world again. And he made $9 billion in the process. Well, he didn't make it. He actually, I was doing the math yesterday on open mic night. I said what the value of $1 million in '82 was when he paid that to his father and Gorilla and everybody. It's a little over $3.5 million. They merged the company, and the company's valued at almost 3,000 times what it was 40 years ago. Can't tell me the guy's not a freaking success and a genius. You can't. When you make your profit 3,000 times over, yeah, that's, what the hell you're doing. But I think the biggest difference is, at least in recent years, Triple H is willing to try something that the fans may or may not like, as opposed to Vince just sticking to what he knows. The biggest exception to that, of course, has been turning Roman Reigns heel, because he was so against that for so long, and we've seen how well that's worked in the last 2.5 years.
Jeff, who do you think was really responsible for Cody Rhodes coming back to WWE during the time that he came back?
Well, in the time he came back, nobody outside of the inner circle allegedly really knew what was going on with Vince possibly having to leave. It was pointed out by, I forget which one of them said it on the air, but Cody made it the point when he left. I'm not leaving because I dislike you or your father-in-law. I'm leaving because I don't feel like I have to be obligated to stay because you pulled my father out of, a really horrible situation. Because it really wasn't Vince and Triple H that pulled Dusty out of, the poverty hole. It was, Paul Heyman and ECW in 2000 and said, here's a check because, you're in trouble. So I really think it was a combination of the two. Triple H was, still had his hand in booking a lot at that point. But like we found out, and like we're finding out again, Vince is the ultimate decider. So I really think it was a combination of the two, but I don't think Vince would have been okay with it if he wasn't okay with it himself, is what I'm trying to get at.
Especially because where Cody was coming from.
Well, right. Exactly.
To me, that's another thing. Vince McMahon gave the WWE fans the return of Cody Rhodes.
Right.
And it's not done yet. People that are bitching that he didn't win it at Mania and that was the right time, even wrestlers, that's because they all want that spot. Everybody wants to be the one that goes over at WrestleMania. That's the dream. So they're all going to defend that he should have went over. But in reality, if he never goes over Roman, I'll come back and say, wow, what happened? I still think it will happen, and it doesn't matter when.
No.
So, again, Vince is letting all this happen, and it'll be interesting because, right, he's there, but really Triple H is still in charge. Vince is on the business end of things, but the fans are going to always think that Vince is involved if he's there. So, Jerry Slaughter, you're up next.
All right. Well, I think right now it's too early to tell who's actually the better booker, but it's also because Vince has got so many decades under his belt of actually making stars. And I think in the long run, Vince usually takes somebody he sees the most potential in and puts all his eggs in one basket. And I think that's what he was doing with the Austin Theory, but then that just kind of fell through because fans still weren't catching on. It's one of those situations where anymore it's really difficult to impress anybody, especially the marks, as me and a whole bunch of other people are called. I'm open about it. It's just hard to actually build a star anymore with everybody's everybody seemingly has attention deficit disorder. You can't keep track anymore, and that's why you have Triple H making so many different storylines and trying to see what sticks and what doesn't stick. And with Vince towards the end of his towards the end of his run this last time, he was trying these different things, and if they didn't work within a couple weeks, they were cut. They were either the gimmick was dropped or the wrestler was dropped, and that got frustrating. It really did, especially with Karrion Kross, because he was a joy to watch in NXT, and then he went back to the independent wrestler for a while, cut some awesome promos, won championship belts, and came back. Sometimes that's what it takes, is for somebody to get released, find their potential on the outside, and then come back in. Drew McIntyre did the same damn thing, and he may be even on his way back out the door. That's what they're saying on the internet. So we don't know, but I think in the long run, Triple H can learn a lot from Vince by seeing the potential in one person and actually just running with them for a little bit. He can still have his other storylines. He can still have his NXT call-ups that he loves so much, and build them into future superstars. But at this point, we do not have a viable person for Roman Reigns to feud with. Cody Rhodes is still there, but right now I think they're doing the right thing by putting him in a feud with Brock Lesnar, because that's going to make him look stronger in the long run if he actually gets out of that one, alive. So right now, time will tell. Triple H is great with the storytelling. Vince is great with the star making. If they can find some way of meshing those two things together, if they find a way of meshing those two things together, the sky's the limit.
Now, if I can finally see Triple H be able to find stars the way Vince McMahon has, then I could say, hey, it's time to move on. Triple H can do this. And that's people like Tito have put Triple H on the hot seat for a long time now, because he's bringing in wrestlers that the diehard fans know, but are any of them turning into these true top superstars that can reach beyond that group, like Vince has been known to do, even if it means shoving people down people's throats until they get used to them. And that to me is the difference. Like Triple H books wrestling, Vince McMahon books attractions, and they need to merge. They need to merge, and Triple H is the one in position now that needs to take the best of Vince McMahon and the best of what he knows, and we can all be happy. Imagine that. It's going to take a lot of work. Walter Cruz, what do you think?
Happy wrestling community? Wow.
I think it's just a matter of their perspectives. Vince came in as a promoter. He started as a promoter. So he has that train of thought and that state of mind first, and talent state of mind second. Triple H started as a talent and now is being a promoter and learning the business. So Vince, in his latter years, he's more worried about appeasing his stockholders, the corporate world, the business world. And Triple H is more worried about appeasing
and the women.
Yeah, and the women.
He's all about pleasing the women.
Appeasing the talent, getting the talent happy, and catering to the crowd. Triple H is more about the pops and the goosebumps and how people feel. If you notice, every time he talks about The Rock, he always talks about that. He said, you can make all the movies you want, but nothing tops that feeling of coming out and hearing 80,000 fans screaming your name. Like he always says that about The Rock. He said nothing can compare to being live and getting 80,000. So he's more about that. So it's just a matter of perspective. Vince worried about stockholders and appeasing the corporate world. Triple H is worried about the audience and wrestling fans. So like everybody said, if you find a way to mesh both worlds, then we all be happy.
And like, let's be honest, what Vince McMahon has done with wrestling, with sports entertainment, taking his dad's company, like Jeff explained earlier, it could have failed, right? It could have been successful, but not nearly as successful as it has been. And it's hard to remove somebody that made their whole life that, and it became a global juggernaut worth a ridiculous amount of money for wrestling.
It's crazy.
Right?
And
so he just can't let it go because he's been so successful and that's all he knows. And yeah, he doesn't look at his failures like fans look at. Like he ignores them and just focuses on what worked. And maybe that's the genius of him. Aaron, over to you. Yeah.
I just wanted to make one point. I think people are all kissing Triple H's ass too because he's the new toy thing, but let's not pretend he didn't lay some eggs like carrying Cross and damage control. Like he's laying some eggs too. Not everything he touched turned into gold either. So
yep. All right, Walter, thank you for that. Aaron, over to you. Not sure if any chats came in.
We do have some super chats here. I will get to those real quick. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2. He says, people don't trust Vince for long-term storytelling. Although, keep in mind, the Mega Powers angle in 1988, that's way back. That was
started the Bloodline.
I mean, I was just going to say, what?
He let the Bloodline Roman turn heel with Heyman. That's Vince McMahon.
And the stuff with Jimmy and Jay, the storyline with Jay, Jeff?
Mute, buddy.
You're on mute again.
Damn it, stupid techno. Sorry. I was just saying.
Botch.
Yeah, Botch. Thank you. Thank you, Noah Foster, wherever you are. It's WWE's only a one guy, at a time company. It's like, other than the Attitude Era, it's always been a one guy at the top of the time company. Bruno, Backlund, Hogan, Cena, Roman, but during the Attitude Era, and granted, that was one of the most successful periods in the company's history, if not the most successful, is everything but business, because Virtue will say, well, money's, revenues are off the chart, which they are. But yeah, it's not about the fact that Vince is one guy at a time. It's like, it's worked. You don't fix something that's not broken. Hogan in the WWF made how much money in the 80s? John Cena made how much money as the top guy? Roman and the Bloodline are making how much money and how much chatter right now? It's not about one guy at the top. It's about the way the fans perceive it. Perception is reality. The greatest character in the history of the company said that at his Hall of Fame induction last year. Perception is reality. And the perception is the Bloodline sells tickets. The Bloodline sells merch. So run with it until it not necessarily runs dry, but when it cools off, you plug somebody else into it. Sammy, there is no freaking reason Sami Zayn, part of that storyline, should have ever been successful. Aaron and I can attest to that, or how over that guy was at every level but WWE, and all of a sudden they're in the main event of night one of WrestleMania. You just have to tweak things enough where the fans will buy into it. Do you think that any other crowd, any other part of the country would have been over like Rover for Sammy and Kevin wearing those PWG shorts out there? No, but because they were on TV and the storyline with the Bloodline, it worked and it popped 80,000 people like crazy.
Timing is everything. Bro.
Yes.
Aaron,
Exactly.
you're itching to talk again. Go ahead.
Who?
You.
Oh, yeah, I was itching to talk again.
What were you reading? Did some news break or something while we were?
No, I was
Okay.
looking at the chat room comments.
Okay, back to you, Aaron.
Okay. Psycho Jet Black sent in another $2 super chat. Says even Triple H has bad ideas like Hit Row and Flop Dollar.
Yep.
Well, the problem with that was the star of that act was Swerve Strickland, and he's an AEW.
Yeah.
And the star of it now, Michael Cole ragging on them on commentary.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but now, like, they're kind of tarnished. People think of that botch when they think of Hit Row, unfortunately, for those guys. But, yeah, I mean, at least Triple H gave those guys a shot to try to succeed. Vince did not really give them a shot. Vince, over the years, I felt like he always was quick to give up on somebody. Like, if he wasn't feeling it, then they stood little to no chance. With Triple H, I think that he's been giving some of these guys more of an opportunity, and not a lot of them have really caught on. Karrion Kross, Bronson Reed is doing okay. Johnny Gargano hasn't really caught on much.
I mean, and as much as I like Bray, his return, now the return part was great. That trip, Vince let him go more or less. And the creative difference rumors we heard, and Triple H let him back, and fans don't like it. But why don't we hear that? Why is everything always great when Triple H does it, but they don't like the Bray Wyatt stuff? And I'm speaking from a big Bray Wyatt fan here, you know?
Right.
It's up to the talent to get themselves over too. Triple H can only show you the door. You got to walk through it.
He did. Bray Wyatt did. But
Okay, so another quick question that kind of relates to this. Do we think there more talent are going to be let go because of this? Like, do we have the draft coming up? Do you think right afterwards we're going to have a whole bunch of like Hit Row just be like not dropped off again?
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be calling up NXT people, which you would think they will be sooner than later, where are they going to get the room for those guys? They're going to have to take some people off TV. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. You know, you hate to see people lose their jobs, but I mean, I always had trouble understanding why people got so mad when WWE started cutting people. Yes, it was during the pandemic, but at the same time, there were a lot of unhappy wrestlers that are sitting around not doing anything. And yeah, it sucks they lose their jobs, but at the same time, there's AEW, there's Ring of Honor, there's all these promotions, Japan. They can actually go and wrestle and prove that WWE made a mistake. And you guys mentioned Drew McIntyre earlier and others that left and made a name for themselves. Cody Rhodes is another guy. And yeah, I mean, now it's kind of the problem that WWE had before, where their roster is bloated, and same thing with AEW. There's so many people in so few spots. It's tough for these guys to really break out and be on TV consistently. But that's a whole other topic. We can talk about the size of the rosters. Sean Garner sent in a $2 super chat. We brought up Jey Uso a few moments ago. When is he going to turn on the Bloodline? I don't think it's going to be until after Roman drops the title. And I'm sticking with what I said. I think SummerSlam, Cody's winning that title, and then Roman will start a full-blown feud with the Usos and maybe even Solo too. Jeff,
you're welcome. You're welcome.
I think Son had his hand up for a while.
Oh, Son, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to cut anybody off, but yeah, one thing I wanted to say that I have enjoyed, and I shout out to, I believe it was Matthew in the chat room mentioned this, better to try and fail than to not try at all. And that's something that I at least am glad we were seeing, is that with a lot of these guys, Vince McMahon would just let them out there for 1 week and then give up on them, or even from the get-go take away, like Karrion Kross, what was working from them from the start. So even though some of these people that Triple H have brought back, it's not going too well, at least I can look back and say, you know what, at least Triple H gave it a few months. At least he tried. So that way we could say, all right, at least, they had a chance to know if they could do it on the main roster or not. That's all.
And Virtue, just to answer the main question of this topic, I do not think there have been all that many changes. I think Raw and SmackDown were slightly better than before Vince left, so to speak. I think the pay-per-views were strong when Vince was around, and I think they were still strong when he left. I think Triple H kept going with the momentum. WWE was doing very well before Vince left, despite what some people think. I very much enjoyed WrestleMania 38. Kevin Owens got to main event night 1, and that was a very well-received show. And we got to see that awesome Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins feud and that match at Hell in a Cell. All that was when Vince was still in charge. The differences, I think, are very minor because Triple H, at the end of the day, was under the Vince McMahon learning tree. Triple H was there. Vince was probably for several years prepping him and giving him direction and teaching him everything that he knew, all the knowledge that he gained from running the company. The few differences I've noticed, they eased up on the scripting and promos, and they got rid of the terms like local medical facility, and they could actually say pro wrestler a little bit. Hospital, like they got rid of that, and the guys could actually wear belts and call them belts again. Little things like that, but nothing too significant. I think the matches got more time than they did before, and obviously they got rid of the 24/7 division. So some of the filler comedy they toned down on, and I do think they focused on a little bit more long-term storytelling. And for the most part, I think Triple H was doing a really good job. I also think that he maybe a problem with Vince. Like, the guy is a creative genius. I don't think anybody can take that away from him, regardless of what you think about him as a person. His business sense is at a level very few can reach. I think that Vince maybe was getting a bit out of touch. And I feel like Triple H, perhaps being a younger man, has a better idea of what's hip in society and pop culture. Like, Vince being at the top, like, you have to explain. And we've heard from various wrestlers over the years about how they would have to explain things to Vince, like things in pop culture. I remember MVP saying in interviews that he had to explain what balling was to Vince. Vince had no idea. Like, Triple H is a younger man. He's going to have a better idea of what's popular in music and movies and all that stuff. Vince's idea, I mean, not that they're a bad band or anything, but, AC/DC is what he thinks is cool and hip, even though they were popular like 30, 40 years ago. And I think Triple H is better in that sense, that he has his fingers more on the pulse with modern pop culture. And Jeff, before I get to you, the last thing is, one thing that people have been complaining about is him changing things at the last second, like tearing up the script and making changes, and that's something that you've heard a lot of complaints about. But yeah, other than that, I feel like they're mostly the same, with a few notable exceptions. Jeff?
Yeah, Bischoff still talks about that to this day on his podcast when he was at Creative in 2019, that they would come in, write the show all week, and Vince would come in at 3:00 and go, nope, tear it up. It'd be like, okay. As far as Cody, real quick before we move on to the next, I just want to say we had a really good point brought up yesterday on Open Mic. Oh, Cody didn't finish his story. It wasn't finished right at WrestleMania. How did this whole story about Cody winning the championship start? Where was that picture of Dusty taken?
Madison Square Garden. Do you think they're going to do it there?
Where are they going to be the Friday on SmackDown after Money in the Bank? Madison Square Garden.
I would be surprised if they did it on a non-pay-per-view or
I'm
premium
not
live
saying
event.
him title on television. I'm saying him cash in at Money in the Bank. Win the briefcase at the start of the show, cash in, and then come into the Garden and do the pose, and then they can have a proper celebration when they go back to Georgia the week after on Raw, and then they can lead into one last rematch with Roman at SummerSlam or something. I'm not saying Cody has to finish the story in front of a giant stadium, but if he wins it in London, it would be the first time that the world title changed hands on pay-per-view, premium event, whatever, overseas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
SummerSlam.
I'm just not a fan of doing the same day cash in. I think they've done that way too much. You would agree with me, right, Walter?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It cheapens it. They've done it too much. I think every woman except the whole Asuka situation has cashed it in on the same night.
Every woman has, but the guys have been, variants on that. Some people, you've had guys call the shot. Cody can win and still call his shot and like, all right, Roman, you're here. End of the night. Let's do it.
He can also win the King of the Ring and call him. Maybe the King of the Ring winner and gets a title shot.
I haven't actually said that yet. So,
Hey, if I could just step in to add, if I could step in to add Aaron's point, I remember an interview of Zelina Vega saying she had to do quite the heavy breakdown to Vince McMahon of what anime is. So, more no adds to it.
I don't blame that, though. Why should he have to know what that is? No, nothing against anybody that likes that song, but I don't think Vince McMahon needs to know the details about some things.
Oh, I just got the story amusing because I figured I'm like, I doubt Vince McMahon's watching anime, which is so hip.
And by the way, even though MVP said he didn't know what ballin' meant, I think Vince McMahon's version of ballin' in his head, he knew exactly what it meant.
But I'll say this to Vince McMahon's credit, though, he let the talents go ahead and do this. So that was a sign to show that he's able to look beyond his own interests and let the talents be themselves at points.
You just say it's going to make you money. He's like, oh, okay.
There you go. Yep.
All right, Aaron, we're ready to move on. Oh, we got to cut. We're short of time. We got to cut AEW again. No. All right, this will be quick, though. Let's talk about AEW this week here. Yes, Aaron.
We do have a few super chats. Let me get to those real quick. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2. He said, Vince is also the guy that gave us Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. Very true.
You know what? Like I said in the chat room, when Baron Corbin is aware of his own booking being bad, that he actually tells me to tell my son I'm sorry for changing fandom for Kofi Kingston, we're all aware of how bad Corbin's booking has been. So
wait, but let's look at this. Corbin's a Triple H guy. So if you love Triple H, why was that a problem? Oh, because of the booking.
Well, because
that's they contradict themselves when they make comments like that. If they're Triple H fans over Vince fans, Corbin is a Triple H guy.
You could do that all you want. Go ahead, Jeff.
He was Triple H guy in NXT. He got called to the main roster, and his booking since he's been called up has been atrocious.
It's a Triple H guy, though. Still,
yeah, I was going to say you can say that all they want.
If they believe him. Go ahead, Walter.
Vince is also the guy who gave us Taker, Stone Cold, Rock. So for every Vince gave us this crap, I can give you the people that he put way over. He gave us Shawn Michaels. He gave us so you can talk all the crap you want. Vince is still a genius.
But if all the Triple H NXT fans love those wrestlers, how they are in NXT, and when they went to the main roster and Vince changed them, Karrion Kross, you name it, and then all of a sudden it's just they're bad. How loyal were you really when you said you liked them when they were Triple H wrestlers in NXT? Benedict Arnold's, they complain to complain. They don't like Vince because that's the cool thing not to like these days. Aaron, can we move on?
We do have another one that came in, and Psycho Jet Black sent in $2, and this was for you because you mentioned Cody and SummerSlam. Do you want to see Roman Reigns versus The Rock for the world title?
No, I said that before that it does not need a title for that. Actually, because we know Rock isn't going to stick around, and it's less believable thinking he'd win it and forfeit it or defend it again to lose it. That match, if it ever does happen, doesn't need a title. And maybe because they wanted Roman to get to 1,000, Philadelphia, where there's some bad blood with Roman and Rock with the fans there, maybe that's plenty of time for Roman to get his milestone, lose it, and we could still get that Bloodline head of the table dream match next year. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all along, it should have just been Rock versus Roman to see who the true head of the table is. Like, that's all it needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rock and Roman is more about dynasty and the name, not titles.
Right. And it would be more of an unpredictable finish if it wasn't for the title, in my opinion. All right.
That would make it a lot more fun.
Yes. Sean Garner sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Sean. I guess a little off side topic here. Do you guys think Trish Stratus turns heel and costs Lita and Becky Lynch their tag team titles against Raquel and Liv? I do not think so. I think that it will be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler that beat Lita and Becky for the tag team titles, and maybe then Trish turns, but not until then. I think Liv and Raquel are just filler opponents. Anybody have a different take on that?
Yeah, is a part-time Trish Stratus really going to be heavily booed? That's why I'm just going to sit and wait and see.
You're skeptical of this heel turn rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, but we'll see. I mean, it would be fun if Trish came back and had like one full-blown run for like 6 months. That would be nice. You know, we never really got to see her have an actual run. Like, she came back for like 1 or 2 matches over the years, but it would be cool for her to just mix it up with like Becky Lynch and some of the others, maybe even Bianca Belair. Like, I'd be down for that if she's up for it. Anyways, we're caught up, guys. So Virtue, we can move on to AEW.
Speed round. Speed round is what I'm going to call this. All right, so Son, I'll come over to you first right here. Let's talk about AEW. And the only news interesting to me lately is they're going to do Wembley Stadium. So maybe thoughts on that. And the MJF vocal singing performance there, which, you know, got a pretty good voice there. Although a couple little segments in there, I don't know if he did that intentionally or it just sounds like it. He had a little Jericho in him there. But, Son, thoughts on AEW? You know me, speed round, so whatever you got to say.
Tony Khan, I actually think, has been upping it a little bit in terms of the storylines lately, because like the past month or so, I really wasn't really into the stories, but I'm like, okay, there's a few things here and there that he started to do. I thought the MJF segment was great, showing more layers to the MJF character, so that's always going to be great. I thought he did a fantastic job, definitely bringing the sports entertainment aspect to AEW right there. As far as Wembley Stadium, it's going to take some pretty big stars to fill that up, but I think it's a good market because the overseas professional wrestling audience, they don't get much of the North American pro wrestling as much as we do, obviously. So whenever you get it out there, there you go. I remember a time when TNA basically was struggling a lot in America, but when they would go to those UK shows, they were packed, and that audience was just rabid, man. So I'm interested to see where they go. It's going to be really interesting to see who they can go ahead and help fill that audience. So you definitely got to be wondering that Tony Khan's trying his best to get CM Punk back, trying to get Kenny Omega. Maybe that'll be a huge statement that they can do. I don't know what's going on with this stuff about Drew McIntyre's contract. We shall see. But if it does line up to where Drew McIntyre ends up getting free in time, then hey, that could be a big deal. Bringing one of the top WWE main eventers in the last few years over to there, his work with Roman and Brock, that's a big thing. So we can see on that. So I'm looking forward to see what they do. Tony Khan for sure is going to have to push hard with these storylines to make sure he gets that stadium filled. But overall, I think AEW right now it's starting to push a little bit heavier in the storylines, and let's look and see where it goes from here.
Son, like cheaper prices, as Tito mentioned. Tony Khan, I'm sure, has a couple tricks up his sleeve if he wants to buy tickets and distribute them, you know, to make it seem like a bigger deal. And I'm not saying, like, I'm nothing against him in that.
Throw him out of a blimp.
He's not. Look. I am not making fun of that type of practice if he's able to afford that, because if he can give the image of them having that stadium full, if it costs him a little bit somehow, that's still power in his pocket. That's power in his pocket.
Virtue, I thought you were going to give AEW credit if they packed the stadium. You were mentioning that, but now it sounds like if they do fill it, you're going to say, oh, well, Tony Khan probably bought 30,000 tickets.
Let's get the gate. Let's look at their gate number versus if a WWE event where everything's 2-3 times the price. That's still a big difference. So I want the fact. I would have the facts with me before I made that statement. If they fill it up, let's get the facts. If the gate is this monster record WWE type gate, then he did it. So, all right, Jerry Slaughter, over to you. Speed round.
I think patriotism goes a long way. And if they actually did have some sort of like, it was funny that Son actually mentioned TNA because they did the whole almost like World Cup kind of thing. If Tony's able to bring in tag teams or like trios from different countries and have a tournament and then like have the finals be at that pay-per-view, they're in Europe. Like people will fly in for that if it was like marketed properly, and that could actually fill the stadium. It really could. Bringing back CM Punk, that looks unlikely at this point. I mean, you don't see him on the poster. He's not on the cover of the game or anything anymore. By all accounts, I'm thinking CM Punk is gone, and they're just letting his contract run out. I really do. But Omega, the Bucks, pretty much if they're healthy or able to travel, they'll be there. And if they keep on with the different stories, that's great too. MJF, I think at this point they really don't know what to do with him. So now he's in this whole 4 pillars storyline, which is all right. I like it. Anytime I get to see Sammy Guevara wrestle and actually get pushed in any way, shape, or form, I'm all for, because he's my favorite person in that company. But otherwise, it's really tough because they're having about as much trouble as making legit contenders for MJF as WWE is for Roman Reigns.
Hey, well said. I mean, that's the thing. Tony Khan's trying something. Remember, I always said, you got Jacksonville football stadium, try, right? And nothing's ever happened over here. He's doing they're going to attempt to fill a stadium finally. So, right? The effort is there. Let's see what happens. Walter, over to you. Are you there?
Yeah, I say good luck trying to fill up that stadium. They can barely.
Jeez.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. They can barely fill up Pennsylvania when they go there. They can. The only one that was really filled up was Chicago because CM Punk was debuting. So good luck on the stadium, but I mean, you better pull something big to make it worth it. Maybe bring CM Punk back there on that show and make it worth it. Do something
before you continue, Walter. Walter, I got something here. Jeff, how much does the Tokyo Dome hold? I know it's not a huge stadium, but New Japan fills that for Wrestle Kingdom every year. Is that like 60,000? Look that up while Walter's giving his take. Go ahead, Walt.
Yeah, and I just good luck with that. And in terms of MJF, that man's talented. Look, he can sing, he can cut promos. That was a good segment. So kudos for him. But enough AEW talk for me. I'm not an AEW person.
Clearly
fair enough. And you attempted. I bravo. All right, Jeff, over to you.
So, yes, the capacity for Wembley is 90,000, but that's for boxing. For a wrestling show, they're going to have it be, there's going to be a stage set up. There's going to be some sort of, setup area. So probably about 75. I don't think they're going to get 75,000 people in an AEW show. Let me be really clear, but they'll get close. Figure SoFi, when it's set up for major events, is 100,000 and a little bit more. But that stage at Mania was so big that they weren't going to get 100,000 people. It just wasn't going to be a thing. So will they fill the stadium if they set it up right? Even then, no, because they're get 75,000 people for an AW show. It's not going to happen. I can say that with confidence. As far as Max goes, yeah, he's kind of just there as the world champion, which was a fear of mine when Punk left and when Mox was going to take his break or not take his break or, go into the program with, the BCC. He's just kind of there now, which is so unfortunate because when Max is on, he's an incredible performer. And when he has somebody that he can feed off of properly, they can do decent numbers and decent TV. I'm not saying TV ratings because the ratings are what they are for AEW, but the potential's there with him as champion. The potential's there for big crowds. I just think you're going to sell the place out, and I don't think Max is realizing his potential right now because there's not big, strong, ooh, what's Max going to do this week? I could give a shit what happens this week. I really do. Which is sad because I didn't care before.
All right. It looks like Michael Wayne. Like I asked Jeff, and maybe he didn't hear me about the Tokyo Dome, and he gives.
Oh,
me
I'm sorry.
SoFi,
Yeah.
he gives me SoFi Stadium, Wembley Stadium, which we already knew. It looks like it's like 54,000. So I don't know how many people in Japan, Wrestle Kingdom draws in Japan, but I feel like if they can do that for that big show, whatever that number is, I feel in England like we can at least get that. Now, Aaron, what did they SummerSlam? It was in Nashville. They were in the football stadium, but they didn't sell. Wasn't it? Didn't they have like a lot of hard cam side stuff that wasn't sold? So they made the illusion.
Okay. So
AEW can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. My guess is they are going to have a similar configuration to what WWE does with the Royal Rumble and SummerSlam stadium events. Basically, WWE uses about half of the stadium for those shows, and they set it up so the hard camera is facing where all the seats are, and behind the hard camera, they curtain it off. They use about half of the stadium. I feel like they will probably do the same thing with AEW at Wembley Stadium, which means they will likely configure it for about 50,000 people. And I think they have a legitimate shot of getting 50,000 people in that stadium. It is AEW's first show outside of North America. Those fans in England and Europe in general, they are really itching for wrestling. Jeff, you have a comment?
Well, no, just as far as the Tokyo Dome, the most attended show at the Tokyo Dome ever was just under, where are we at here? 70,000 for Inoki's retirement in 98. And that was in 98.
Yeah. I mean, I realistically, I don't think AEW's coming close to that number.
No, in the modern era of New Japan, where people have honestly been watching New Japan all over the world, and I'd say the 2010s and beyond, would that be a fair statement?
Yeah.
So the most attended show in the 2010s was 43,000 at the Tokyo Dome, and that was
Jericho.
No, actually, it wasn't. It was Tanahashi and Suzuki at the Wrestle Kingdom 6. That was the main event. I don't know if that was the one with Jericho was 2016. I think he was at with Kenny, if I remember right. Maybe I'm not sorry, not 2016. It's either 2017 or 2018. It's not even in the top 10 of Tokyo Dome shows in the 2010s.
Okay.
So yeah, AEW is not going to get near what is considered a sellout at Wembley. Not even remotely close.
All right. So what would we consider a successful number then?
I would say 50,000. As low as like 30,000, I think would be a success for them financially. But I think they're going to do quite a bit more than that. I think they're going to do 40 to 50,000. Walter?
Who is AEW's biggest European star? I can't even think besides Saraya. She's from England, obviously. But
I mean, I think the thing is, there's not any one person. The main draw is AEW, and I believe that they will sell most of their tickets up front. Apparently, there's 25,000 plus signups since the show was announced. People signing up to get access on Ticketmaster. So that's an encouraging sign that there's already close to 30,000 people that are interested in buying tickets. Jeff,
go ahead, Jeff.
When you pre-reserve on Ticketmaster, that's usually for 2 or 3 in that particular registration. So even at peak number, you're still looking at 40,000 people that are like, so that's half the stadium sold right there.
Yeah, but if they can figure it like Royal Rumble or SummerSlam, it's gonna look full on television.
The AEW audience, 90% of them buy them right away.
Right.
So to me, that's you might have a quick 40,000. That don't mean you're gonna we'll get to 80, 90, no problem. That to me is gonna be 80, 90% of the ticket sales.
To counter that, WWE has been talking all week about it was the most successful WrestleMania ever as far as ticket sales. You could still buy tickets on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh yeah, for sure.
By a lot.
Yeah.
There was talk in my family. Can we get Dylan into the show? I mean, he's off. He's out of school anyway. Let's go ahead and get him in for like $50. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then he's like, and good thing you didn't because he might have got COVID too. I don't think that I think the fans' expectations are a little too high as far as like us here at our level of fandom is like, they got to sell it out or it's going to be a shit show. It's like, no, that as long as they have the pre-sale interest that they have, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if they sell like 15,000 tickets, that would be a disaster. But I think they're going to do considerably more. Yeah, you laugh, Walter, but they're going to do a great number. I mean, they got a strong enough brand, and considering the amount of people in Europe that are wanting to see this show and are willing to travel for it, I think it's going to be a huge number. And I give Tony Khan credit for making the move. It's ambitious. It is definitely a risk, but I think it's a risk that will pay off. And like Virtue said, they will probably sell the bulk of their tickets when they first go on sale. The question is, can they get more ticket sales if they possibly bring back CM Punk? Will Ospreay's a guy now? Apparently he's injured, but maybe he'll be good to go by then. Son?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, gentlemen, who do you think it would take to be the biggest draw possible to get to probably filling the show or at least reaching the amount? And then you just mentioned CM Punk, so I imagine that would have to be. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of meeting of making up and or just can we get together and we'll be professionals? Obviously, if they can get to that point, but I imagine CM Punk would be the biggest name. But again, too, though.
Well, let me tell you. I would love to see CM Punk against either MJF or Kenny Omega on that show. And Dax Harwood even mentioned in an interview, you can check out the highlights on NoDQ, he wants to have a match, him and Cash Wheeler with CM Punk against the Elite. That would be huge too.
Imagine the Elite saying CM Punk is a stand-up guy. Or not the Elite, the Revival, FTR. Seriously, you have professional wrestlers that are respected saying CM Punk is a stand-up guy. It would be nice to get in the world where the Elite can think that at some point and everybody could kumbaya again.
That's why I asked who's the biggest European, because I was thinking marketing and
with Jamie Hayter too.
I was thinking marketing like who would you push to start getting the titles, because like WWE did that stadium show and it was Drew that got the title shot. Like they did something smart to capitalize it, and I'm thinking, who can AEW do that with?
Walter, I'm gonna explain this to you. You have to look at it almost like early ECW when it comes to fans for AEW. Yeah. They don't have a specific favorite wrestler. They go there because it is AEW. Like that, you saw a whole bunch of people with ECW shirts. You very seldomly saw anybody with a Raven shirt or a Tommy Dreamer shirt or anything like that. They love the company. They love what the company is putting out. They love the wrestlers that were in the company. They love the mood. They love everything about it. So basically, that's what you have with AEW. WWE, yes, they have their superstars. They have those ones that are the merch movers that are always constantly doing stuff. But if you look at it that way, AEW's got Danhausen. And he's like one of the biggest merch sellers on the planet. He's barely even on television. So you can't really measure that. You just have to look at AEW as a whole versus WWE's individual superstars.
Yeah, people are just you said that because it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance for them to see it.
Jerry, it's interesting you said that about Danhausen. I know his stuff's like more pro wrestling tees or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, look at his gimmick. It's like weird face paint. And that the
Bray
Wyatt, but I'm going back to Bray Wyatt. Even if you don't like what they do, they sell to somebody. Weird, spooky, comedy. It sells, man. But anyway,
I've been a fan of Bray Wyatt since Bray Wyatt got into WWE. I've been a fan of his. I like everything that he's done. I don't understand what he's doing with this new stuff, but it's going somewhere, hopefully. So.
We'll see. All right, Aaron, any super chats, anything else you want to say before we go to the main event?
MJF is great. Just wanted to throw that out there. Love the guy.
He really is.
His singing. He's Vince McMahon material. He's a good singer. It's too bad he's not like a couple inches taller. If he was like 6'3", that guy would be the man in WWE. He'll still be a big star, but I feel like they'll never push him to the top because of his height, unfortunately, which sucks. But if MJF was 6'3", he'd be the new Rock, as far as I'm concerned. He would be the guy. They would put all their chips in him and push him to the moon.
I think it's a blessing he's not that tall. AEW don't know what to do with the big people. Look what they're doing.
He doesn't need to be 6'7". I'm saying just taller than he is. He's like 5'9", 5'10".
I know. Like maybe 6'2", 6'3", he'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the chat room, the show with Jericho and Omega was Wrestle Kingdom 12. Sorry, everybody. And yes, it was 43,000 people, but only 35,000 paid. So they're just saying.
All right, let's get to the super chats real quick, and then we'll get to the main event. Michael sent in $2. He says, Virtue, the Jaguars can barely feel their own place, and he sent in another $2 to correct that and said, Phil.
Well, look, they were a playoff team last year, and it takes a winning team, so that might change. And maybe if that changes, if Wembley's successful, maybe they'll have the first stadium show in the States for them in Jacksonville. And think about it. If the Jaguars are a hot young playoff caliber team, and you have more people there for football, that might be an easier venue. Hey, let's put wrestling in here now. And like Aaron and I think, you can always present it like WWE does on some of those Royal Rumble and SummerSlam shows.
No matter how much they stink, though, they still got their season ticket holders and those kind of people.
That's
so,
true.
Well, yeah, but,
if they keep winning,
brand loyalty is huge.
Yes.
I'm going to say the Jaguars, for all they've sucked until literally this last season when they had a good start anyway, there's still people that buy. Hell, I'm an LA Kings hockey fan. We've sucked for almost all of our 50 years, and we still go to every game, damn it, because we're idiots. So,
there you go.
Aaron, I know this talk is going right over both of our heads.
Right?
I'm a Celtics fan. Do you know how many years I've had to endure some BS?
Aaron, super chat.
Yes. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2, says, imagine Danhausen and Orange Cassidy in WWE.
And see, I can't either one of those guys in WWE. I can't make my brain do that.
Oh, here's another difference between Vince and Triple H that I did not mention earlier. Who bounced?
Jerry
bounced. What the hell? That's very Jerry-like.
Technical difficulties.
All right. Well, anyways, Vince does not like utilizing something that he did not create. Now, some might say that's a smart idea. You should come up with your own concepts. War Games happened on the main roster, I think, because of Triple H. Without Triple H being in charge, that wasn't going to happen. Let's be real here. So that's another difference between Triple H and Vince. Like, I feel like Triple H would use Orange Cassidy's gimmick, but Vince would say, no, this has got to be something different. We're not going to do this, that sort of thing. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says AEW needs CM Punk and Goldberg for the Wembley show. I've heard a lot of people mention Goldberg. Who would he even face? Like, some people thought maybe he could do something with Sting or even team up with Sting. I guess that's an interesting...
Team up with Wardlow, I guess.
Yeah, or fight Wardlow if they ever built up Wardlow.
Yeah, build him back up.
No comment on Goldberg.
But going back to that Vince thing, Vince also doesn't like when a wrestler or a superstar gets over on their own either. Look at Zack Ryder and Miro. He was like, nope. Rusev Day got over on his own. Nope.
Yep. Anyways, we are caught up. So, Virtue, I think we can now move to the main event. And I have to rearrange everybody again because Jerry decided to bounce on us.
Main event time.
I didn't decide to. The universe said bye.
Whoa, your audio's loud.
Sounds like you got a megaphone going on.
Yeah.
But all right,
wait.
We're going to talk.
Sorry. Michael sent in a new $2 super chat, says he pushed WCW Goldberg over Bray Wyatt in WWE.
Fair argument.
I mean, that's just, I think, a Saudi Arabia deal. They're paying the big bucks. And remember, Vince is a businessman. So if Saudi Arabia says we want War Games at Crown Jewel, then we're getting War Games at Crown Jewel. You know what I'm saying?
I can counter that. Look how they treated Goldberg when he first came to WWE. He couldn't be Triple H. He couldn't
Goldberg is so over. He damn near killed The Undertaker for real, and they still brought him back. Okay, I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, that is true. Anyways, Virtue, main event time.
Someone want to know how I did in my fantasy baseball league this week. Well, the league, again, this is over everybody's head, I'm sure. But Ryan Dempsey, I lost 4-5, but it's okay. It's week 1. And then I'm in another league where it's completely different. It's rotisserie, and I'm dominating that so far. All right, Aaron, main event time. WWE Draft coming up. I don't care. There's so many times I've wanted the main titles to combine. The champion should be on both shows, and we know Roman's schedule. It's it doesn't matter who goes where to me. I don't even want to, like, I started trying to think who could go where, like Charlotte to Raw so she can face Bianca and win another title. And then I gave up. Okay. So as the moderator, I don't care. I hate the WWE draft. It stinks. I just want to see what everyone else has to say. And then maybe if you can make me interested in something or like, oh, maybe this, I will chime in. You guys are carrying me this main event. Jerry Slaughter, hopefully you're not too loud. I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to whisper like this first. Is that okay?
Okay. That
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it? Are we good?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. I really don't care about the draft either, but it's also because I don't think it should be called the draft. More or less, it's a superstar shakeup, and I like that terminology better anyway. If it's going to be a draft, it should be a legit draft. There should be a bigger talent pool in NXT. It should be done maybe every 2 years. That, like, give the talent a year to get settled in, give them another year to get over with the crowd, and then like move them up little by little. They should have a legit draft for that. Superstar shakeup wise, maybe every year, like have after WrestleMania, have a superstar shakeup, have the superstars move around. I don't consider it a draft because being up in WWE is the pinnacle. Like the draft just means you're moving up from like the minor leagues and moving up to the major. You're moving up from your high school to your college.
The draft should be NXT to WWE main roster. That's you're right. If you look at it from a sports fan,
yeah, it's supposed to be like you're supposed to be leveling up more to speak, so to speak, and that's what it should be. There should be a bigger talent pool in NXT to call from, to have them all like out there, like all like some sort of audience type situation, almost like a Hall of Fame type thing. They get called up to the stage, get handed a Raw or a SmackDown shirt. That should be the actual draft. Anything else is just
I like that. And number one pick, Braun Breaker. Yeah, I like that.
So something like that. And then like for the superstar shakeup, if they want to do a lethal lottery type thing, and just kind of like roll the dice, rolling a ball type thing, and just shuffling people around like that for a real shakeup, that would be phenomenal. But otherwise, it doesn't appeal to me. It really doesn't. The actual draft, I'm not a sports guy, but I know what a draft is supposed to be. And what they're doing right now isn't a draft. It's a shakeup. An actual draft from NXT to WWE, I would totally be on board for.
All right, Walter, I'm coming over to you first. And you know what I hate about this as I'm sitting here thinking about it? I hate the fact that Fox has SmackDown, and we don't know what's going to happen with these future TV deals. USA has Raw. I wish the same network had both shows, because then we know there wouldn't be that, well, because it's Fox and we got to get another big deal with them. We got to keep Roman exclusive to SmackDown. That's the stuff that ruins this all for me. Go ahead, Walter.
Yeah, I agree with you. In terms of this, like Jerry said, it's not a draft. It's a superstar shuffle. That's what it really is. But then 3 weeks later, WWE kills it again because they pop up on each other's shows. So none of us care about it because WWE doesn't make us care about it. If you actually did the original formula, like when it first happened, only the champs can show up on both shows, and then you actually kept people separate, and you do include NXT, then you got something. But right now, like, who's going to care about it? Why care about it if 2 weeks later, whoever gets shuffled or drafted or whatever is just going to show up on the other show? And the only person that would make sense off the top of my head to draft is Rhea's got to go to SmackDown. Why? Because she's got the SmackDown title. That's the only thing that actually makes that I can think logically would make sense. But WWE and logic in the same sentence is an oxymoron. It doesn't work. So,
Walter, I don't know if they've done this before. What if Rhea stayed on? Where is Rhea Ripley now? Raw, technically.
Raw.
Technically,
What
Raw,
if she stayed there? Bianca went to SmackDown. Did they make them trade the title belts? Didn't they do that before?
Yeah, they did that at one point.
They did it with Charlotte. And
That's
Becky.
dumb too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's the
Walter,
simplest
anything
thing
else?
either.
Like, see, I'm only saying things that infuriate me.
You
about this.
already made the titles undisputed, each title, right? Do that and keep the champ. Only the champs can have both shows,
Correct.
and everybody else has to stick it.
Yeah,
It has to stick
100%.
to their show. Why did you make an undisputed title? What does that mean then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. Are you good? Anything else you want to say on this or vent about?
No.
Son, over to you. You seem like this is something you like. You want to dissect this, do a podcast about it. I mean, again, there's been some good ones, but go ahead, man.
Yeah, when I was a preteen/teenager and I was around, I think the first couple of years of draft, that was awesome because it really felt like it was two different brands within the WWE brand. SmackDown, Raw, you knew where to go, where the superstars were, and then when WrestleMania season would come around, that's when you would have the Raw versus SmackDown matches, and it felt like a big deal, like, oh, he's on Raw, or oh, he's on SmackDown. Like, back in those first couple of years, it was great, and one of the things that I really loved about that early draft is the opportunities it created for a lot of the wrestlers having 2 world titles, 2 mid-card titles, 2 tag titles, but you kept them separate. That was great. But as the years go by, and I probably was a little bit more fun of the draft than a lot of other fans were just because of those opportunities. But yeah, WWE eventually broke me on that. How many times? Michael Cole is great as a commentary, but how many times did they make him say, oh, it's the old Survivor Series is the only place where you can see Raw and SmackDown superstars collide. But first, 3 weeks before Survivor Series, here's the SmackDown and Raw superstar in the ring. And I'm like, okay, and then they would just come and go, and they wouldn't even mention that they were on the other brand. And you mentioned earlier that segment where they had Becky and Charlotte swap the titles. Like, I would not want to see that again.
That's
where
what it
Bianca ends her title reign and Rhea just ends her title reign. They just swap the titles, and they're like, all right, Bianca begins a new title reign. I'm like, she's been champion for over 1 year, and I want to see her go on and probably become the second longest reigning women's champion. And if it ends like that, and then this new one that they're talking about how every superstar is eligible, I would hate to see the Bloodline and the Judgment Day break up like that, where it's like, well, Jimmy and Jay, you go to Raw, Tribal Chief is going to stay on SmackDown, and that's it. I'm like, you're leaving storylines and money's on the table.
Bloodline shows up on both shows, you know what I mean? So it doesn't
They
matter.
do anyways.
Yeah, the world title, the unified champions can, and that was another thing I didn't understand when you had like a 4 or 5 person faction. I can understand why the unified Bloodline members are showing up. I'm like, why is Solo here? He's supposed to be on SmackDown. So I don't know, but yeah, WWE, Triple H, Creative, Vince, they're gonna have to really commit to this for the next several months to make me really care and get invested as a fan. And one more thing that they did, wasn't there somewhere where they hired a lot of actors who were pretending to play top executives on the draft, and they hired
in one of the rooms, like a
yeah. And they hired someone who I think was on like a big losing streak for weeks, and then they showed him, I'm like, why? In storyline wise would you get excited? So yeah, they've got some things to do in order to make me invested into this. But yeah, I personally do like the idea of having 2 world champions, 2 tag champions on every division, because I think it creates more opportunity. But once again, that means nothing if they don't take it seriously.
well said.
Oh, and one more. Raw and SmackDown at Survivor Series. I'm glad that we have War Games, because remember how you would have somebody ripped before it? You would have be like, you know what? I love being on Raw because this is where I got my opportunity. They switch over to SmackDown like, I defend SmackDown with all my heart, even though I was on Raw for 30 years. Like, yeah, so they got some work to do.
Brand supremacy.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, though. Vince McMahon let this happen once before. And it's baffling based on what we know now. He let NXT win Survivor Series. He let that happen once, right?
I was there at that Survivor Series.
He let that happen. Like, where? Just wow. All right.
And that was the best one in quite a few years.
Son, you good? You get everything off your chest?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right.
I have another question. I have one more question when it comes to that whole thing. We don't have authority figures anymore, so what's the point of having, like, there's not going to be any general managers on either side?
What's his name? Jeff's buddy.
Adam Pearce. Well, Adam Pearce is on both shows. Like, I agree that we need to have separate general managers. Like, there's definitely things that they can do to improve the brand split. Very obvious, practical things that they just don't do. But anyways, is it Jeff's turn?
All right. Yeah, it's Jeff. Like, he looks like he's dying over there. So
may the force be with you, Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Jedi Jeff over there.
I want to get out of here by 9:30.
The the Jedi stuff's over here for May 4th. I already got that ready for work. For real though, I actually do, which is scary. So this looks really bad blown up. Oh my god, I look like shit. Okay. Sorry. The draft has been a joke. Other than 2002, and if you think about this stuff after the draft, we had that dynamic of, okay, so the undisputed champion is so and so. The Raw contender gets the first shot. Great example. Backlash 02, you had Austin Undertaker battling for that contender spot because Flair went, well, Taker's number one contender, and Vince went, no, I get first crack. The coin toss said so. You felt like you were dealing with different brands within one umbrella company. 04, you kind of felt it because of the draft lottery and the fact that Paul Heyman was so, torqued out about, getting everybody on Paul Heyman SmackDown, and Bischoff goes, and I got Paul Heyman. So that's how we write Heyman off of television for a while. 05 was a great one because of the lottery. And again, Cena moving to Raw changed everything as far as both shows and the way they presented both him and Batista as world champions the rest of that year.
Moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was I was at the SmackDown when they introduced Batista, and JBL thought he was going to be the SmackDown champ and everything, and then Batista came out and screwed the pooch on that one for JBL, unfortunately. The company doesn't feel like it needs a draft or even anything called a sports draft. Superstar shakeup, superstar shuffle, as Walter called it. Absolutely, we need fresh stories. We need fresh challengers for these champions because it feels like, all right, we did our big WrestleMania storylines. Now what? Roman being on one show as the undisputed champion, doesn't look good for either network. That's why USA, if you read the reports, has been so pissy about it because Roman's been primarily a SmackDown guy, and Fox gets all the love. And USA, who's been WWE's home for almost the entirety of Vince's 40 years in charge, has kind of been fallen by the wayside. So I agree. I don't think a draft is necessary. I think they definitely need to do something to shake things up again. And, they use the term draft because it's a cool, hip sports thing. And it's like, yeah, but everybody works for the same team. Everybody's on one show or the other. If you had NXT people involved and there wasn't, like in the chat room, who is this guy? I don't watch NXT. Aaron doesn't even cover NXT on his own damn recap schedule. So why do we give a shit about it? Seriously. I get that slot, so I'm thankful for it. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those, if we don't care about it as a presentation on NoDQ, why should the casual fan care about NXT people being called up? Ooh,
Yep.
True story.
Yep. All right. There you have it, Jeff. Relax. We're going to go over to Aaron. Now you can go hibernate or go in a cocoon now. Okay.
May the fourth with you.
All right. Clearly, the draft used to be a big deal for people back in the day, but lately seems like people are less than excited for it, and for good reason, because WWE has not taken the draft very seriously in recent years, and that's just something that they could easily fix, but for whatever reason, they choose not to. Guys jumping around from show to show too often, like I'm all in favor for having the brand split. I think it's a positive. I like the idea of wrestlers appearing once a week on television. When they're on twice a week, that's when they can get overexposed and it's just too much. And you have such a large roster, you're able to showcase more people. I am in favor of a brand split, but I think you need to take it seriously. Keep the people on separate brands, do a minimum amount of jumping around, and do what I've always said, and this is what they did at the beginning. This was mentioned earlier. The champions are the only ones that can appear on both shows. Are they going to merge the Raw and SmackDown women's titles? They certainly teased that with Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley on Raw last week. Time will tell if they do that. I think they should. I think they should merge as many of the titles as possible and have the champs just appear on both shows. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat, says, should WWE send the lower card guys like Corbin, Flop Dollar, and Mustafa back to NXT and call up NXT stars so we get some fresh matches and characters? Well, that's a great question, but they've already sent like Jinder Mahal and Veer. Apparently Veer's coming again. I don't know what that means, but
New Day.
New Day. Like, yeah, the problem is like NXT feels like it's getting bloated, and people are struggling to get TV time there too. I hate to say it, but you might have to make some cuts at some point and have room for new people. You definitely want to change things up and bring in some new people. And I agree with Jerry when it comes to calling it the superstar shakeup. I think the pick should be random. I don't really like the choosing, and the way they do it is a little bit silly to me.
Raw gets 2 to everyone because we're 3 hours. That's stupid too.
And maybe have a few NXT draft picks where they do call in Braun Breaker or Cora Jade or Roxanne Perez, whoever they're gonna call up, and they should definitely do that too. Introduce some new people so we get some fresh faces, and ultimately at the end of the day, shake things up so we get some fresh matchups. I think that's really the key to doing this. It's not just a ratings ploy, but also to create fresh matchups that we haven't seen before. So with that being said, as far as who I am personally predicting to be jumping, there's several names that I think could benefit. Drew McIntyre, I think, should go to Raw and go heel. Like he is stale on SmackDown. Imperium, I would like to see them go over to Raw as well. So Gunther has some fresh opponents, and since the U.S. title is on Raw, I would switch over Austin Theory to SmackDown. Charlotte, we mentioned earlier, I could see her making the switch to Raw, and Becky Lynch going to SmackDown. And if Becky goes, Seth is probably going too. So I'll go ahead and say that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins going to SmackDown. Judgment Day, if Rhea Ripley, SmackDown Women's Champion, although she could appear on both shows, maybe Judgment Day goes over there. Baron Corbin back to SmackDown. He's not doing a damn thing. And I would keep Bobby Lashley. Michael Wayne, I would keep Bobby Lashley on Raw so he could challenge Gunther for the IC title. Lashley and Gunther, I think, would be a hot match. So I would keep Lashley on Raw. LA Knight, maybe switch him to Raw. Karrion Kross, Raw. Madcap Moss and Emma are doing nothing on SmackDown. I mean, I don't know if them going to Raw is going to do anything.
Send them to NXT.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to help them anyways. But remember, people were excited about Emma coming back. Well, I'm not sure they were, but people were saying, yeah, bring back Emma, but she's done nothing.
That reaction was not even does nothing. When she came back,
Aaron,
like,
what I would like out of this is for somehow none of the bloodline are drafted because like the power Roman pulls the power play and makes them like, hey, we're all untouchable. We stay wherever wherever the wise man says we stay. You know what I mean? Because that would just make that even more like, you know what I mean? Well, bloodline's excluded from the draft. It would put them up on that pedestal even higher. I hope they do that. I hope they don't.
Or they break the rules.
You said nobody's excluded.
Yeah. Well, no, but they get like Paul Heyman. They bring in an attorney and say no. He's had the title. Like we're going to go where we want when we want. I want to see something like that.
Yeah, or like imagine if they legit randomize it. Like they told all the writers you're working this weekend, and we're going to start writing based on what some computer or some algorithm picks. We're going to have a legit draft. Like it's all completely random. And then all weekend we'll start changing and basing storylines on whoever gets shuffled.
Yeah, Jeff?
Mute.
Damn it. I abstained. They tried to have a Taboo Tuesday, and look at what it turned out for them on the voting stuff. So,
yeah. But I'm in favor of them bringing back that pay-per-view, by the way, now that we're in the $5 a month era of pay-per-view /
Does anybody really buy that wasn't kind of rigged?
Yeah, but I mean,
had Shawn Michaels challenge with a busted knee, so
yeah. And other names I wanted to throw out there: Braun Strowman, Ricochet. Strowman's doing nothing on SmackDown. Get him over to Raw. Shotzi's doing nothing on SmackDown. I could see her switching, and people going to SmackDown. Elias, if they don't cut him. Move him to SmackDown. Johnny Gargano's doing nothing on Raw. Maybe SmackDown's better for him. Candice can go with him. Mia Yim's doing nothing on Raw. So those names I mentioned are the main ones that I'm expecting to switch. Maybe Hit Row to Raw, though. Again, are those guys really going to do anything regardless of which brand they're on. That remains to be seen.
Well, no, we need Hero on SmackDown, so Michael keep making fun of him. Actually, keep him over.
Maybe they switch announcers. Maybe Michael Cole goes back to Raw.
Hit Row's going to get drafted to Future Endeavor. That's where they're getting drafted to.
Mr. Anderson.
Top money on the Indies.
Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, I liked the draft when everyone was eligible, including WWE commentators. There you go.
Jim Ross.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Jim Ross did not like it. But you have the separate commentary teams, and I would bring back general managers. So there's a feud between Raw and SmackDown to try to create the best show. But, they don't have to have the heel general managers. You can have two babyface general managers, but they actually have a rivalry, and they're trying to one-up each other. And Adam Pearce could always be like the supervisor of WWE who they answer to, and he makes the final say
no
on
more
things.
Wrestlers making matches themselves.
Yeah,
it's too bad they don't have. Oh, it's too bad they don't have general managers, because with the storyline he's got going on with Chelsea, you could do a story where he purposely rigs the draft so that Chelsea gets to be on Raw or SmackDown, whichever brand he would be on, and that's the other general manager's problem.
Hopefully they use the draft to bring back Pat McAfee. That's a way you can bring him back to commentating.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe even Booker T could be a general manager.
Dude,
If Pat McAfee comes back for commentary, like they could always have Wade Barrett be a general manager. That might be fun.
Or Pat McAfee can be the GM. He doesn't have to necessarily. I want him to be the commentator because it's exciting in the way. But you could use him somewhere else.
Sure, bring back Bad News Barrett as a general manager. That'd be entertaining.
Yes.
I've got some bad
Aaron.
news. I'm the one with the Undertaker.
Aaron, any other super chats?
Yes, we do have two more. Hamp Connell sent in $5. Thank you for that, Hamp. Says, why don't they just have everyone on both shows and clean up half the roster? SmackDown wouldn't be a recap every week this time because it's on Fox. Well, that's the other thing, too. I would get rid of the recaps, the Raw recap on SmackDown. I know they're trying to promote both shows, but I would eliminate that at least. I don't really think it's necessary. And again, I'm not a fan of wrestlers appearing on both shows because I think they tend to get overexposed when they're on both shows. And that was maybe a negative of the Attitude Era when, as great as Steve Austin is when he's on both shows every week, the character can get stale faster if they're on two shows a week instead of one.
Yeah, I heard
that's why. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's why I love the Undertaker on SmackDown. It was just like SmackDown was the stuff just to go see the Taker. Like I
was gonna say I forget what book I read years ago, but it wasn't just wrestling; it was TV in general. When you have a character that's on TV every single week, even though they only age by a week or a year or whatever in a season, their TV age seems like more because you're seeing them so much. It feels like you're growing old with them. So for every year they're on TV, every week they age like 3-4 years. Like it's like being president, man. These guys, can go look at Clinton. He went into the 92 election looking young and he was hip and he was playing the sax on Arsenio. By 2000, he looked old as hell. Granted, he had a rough personal life during the presidency, but he aged so dramatically. So did President Obama. He aged dramatically in those two terms. These guys on TV now, and the girls too on TV, they age so exponentially because they're on so much. And you see them so many times a week. It's like, oh my God, enough. Quick. So
plus you give the actual talent breaks. Like when they were on one show, they actually did get more days off. You gave them breaks and they were refreshed and willing to, and less risk of injury.
All right, speaking of breaks, Aaron, let's get the super chats out of the way. Let's go home. Let's close this thing up.
Okay, Psycho Jet Black sent in $2. Says, imagine a real draft between WWE and UFC. I mean, Walter, that's kind of ridiculous, don't you think? I know he's joking. You can't
mix the scripted, pre-planned legit matches. And like I said, that's the only problem with you try to combine it because you can only use the retired older fighters to do that because they don't have no schedule. They don't have to train for the current fight.
I think people are going a little overboard with their fantasy crossover encounters between WWE and UFC.
valid crossover last night at UFC 267. There were 3 WWE Hall of Famers sitting with Dana White yesterday.
Yeah.
And Dana White, I don't know if y'all watched the recap after his lawyer
Wow,
told him
that
to
is-
shut
that
up. He
is
was
true.
about to
They are
reveal
Hall
a
of
little too
Famers.
much about the deal. His lawyer told him, shut
It was
up.
like,
in the middle
no,
of
Dana.
Yeah, that was quite the photo that was on social media. But we're officially in After Dark now. Adrian sent in $5.55 in a euro currency, I believe. Says, can you see Christian Cage coming back to WWE for one final run with
Eventually.
Edge to win the tag team belts? No DQ After Dark question. I mean, whenever his AEW contract is up, I could see that as a possibility. Him and Edge doing one more match, maybe Saudi Arabia. Who knows?
There were people that were so sure we were going to see him and Gangrel last weekend. Do you know why Gangrel was in Southern California last week? It had nothing to do with WrestleMania. He was doing a video shoot with a Disney YouTuber. Like, that's why Gangrel was in Southern California. Nothing to do with friggin' WrestleMania. So, yeah, if his contract's up.
I saw Christian coming back, but then like he ended up showing up with Luchasaurus again this past week.
Right.
So I guess he's going to be there for a little while longer. But it'd be really cool to have him have one last run with Edge in WWE because that just sounds right.
Don't hold your breath, though. I think he signed a 4 or 5 year contract, so it's going to be a while.
Yeah, we'll worry about that down the road.
People just say like, "Hey Tony, I want to leave," and he's like, "Okay."
We'll see what happens.
But I'd be down for it. I think it'll happen. I think it will in WWE one of these days. But anyways, we are caught up and we can now start wrapping things up.
All right, let's do our plugs. Jeff, get yours out of the way so you can go back to bed.
Appreciate that very much, for real. You can check out our watch-alongs and everything we do in the multiverse of media at the following YouTube addresses there on the screen. Jeff Meacham, Cassidy Studios, our buddy Noah Foster, and Foster 2016, and our buddy James Hebert at Hebert Side 95. You can catch the watch-alongs on there. You can catch Talk Wrestling on those channels, as well as NoDQ.com. And we appreciate being allowed to be on NoDQ for Talk Wrestling and some of the other stuff we do. We also, Aaron, want to thank you again for allowing access to the old content for Throwback Thursdays on the Casa Studios. So check that out every Thursday, all throughout Thursday on the Casa. And we'll be back this week with more of the same old stuff.
As always, thank you, Jeff. All right, son, I know you always got nice little plugs, so go next.
Alrighty, so I am a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, my all-time favorite, and on my channel I rank the top 4 Stone Cold Steve Austin saves. As you can see on the side, I put a lot of editing to it and a lot of excitement, so definitely go ahead and check that out. It was my first Attitude Era video. Also up is my WrestleMania 39 Night 1 and 2 review, which I have my guest Rob Fury, who once was on here on the NoDQ review. So we bring a lot of excitement talking about WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 all in one video right there. So you can check out that wrestling related content as well as any of my other acting and voice acting related stuff. Big Dragon Ball fans, so you can find that as well. YouTube.com/@SonGoshoku. You can also find me that on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure to come on here and talk professional wrestling. Thank you so much. Aaron, keep up the hard work with NoDQ. Team NoDQ, let's keep on supporting Aaron and what he brings to the table with this website. That being said, everyone, I hope you all have a fantastic Easter or wonderful evening if you don't celebrate. That being said, guys, take care. I don't know the next time I'll be back on. I am busy as a content creator, but no matter what, let's keep all having fun and do our best to enjoy life.
Thank you for being on. Great as always. All right, Jerry.
Find me on Twitter at Gerald_JSJ or my Facebook group Armbar, all capital ARMBAR ! Just content, a lot of wrestling discussions, pretty much weird videos. We just do everything in there. So, that's pretty much it. I try to get on here as much as I can. I haven't, covered NXT in like 2 years, so stop asking. And that's it.
All right. Good having you on. Over to the reliable one, Walter Cruz.
I'm the simple one when it comes to plugs. I talk a lot, but with the plugs, I'm the shortest. So I'm on Instagram at Cal Fire Farms. You can find it there. And we're going to be pretty busy. It's almost harvest time now since it's April. And then I'm also on Twitter. My Twitter name is at Walter Alex Cruz. And again, thanks for always having me.
No problem, man. Thank you. Aaron?
We do have a few more super chats in the After Dark segment. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2 and said Vince McMahon and Triple H will book Wardlow better than AEW. I mean, that's a given because Wardlow's a bigger guy. WWE can book the bigger guys, AEW not so much, and the smaller guys don't really do as well in WWE. That's just the way that the two brands work.
They had Rusev, and they messed that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal with him was, but thank you for that. And he also, this is a non-wrestling question. Our thoughts on the Super Mario movie. I have not seen it. Walter, did you see it?
I liked it. It was awesome. It brought nostalgia back, and it seems they followed more of the Odyssey storyline. And that's all I'll say.
Would you guys agree that they missed a marketing opportunity having it not come out on March 10th with the MAR 10? Like
I totally missed that. Yeah,
probably. But what I do like to see is when critics overanalyze a movie that's made for kids or fans, give it a medium score, low score, and then it just crushes it at the box office.
Yeah,
user scores are almost 100%. That's what tickles me. I love watching the critics fail.
And go see John Wick 4 too. That's another good one.
Right. I'm about to say right now it's already surpassed Frozen 2 in the opening box office weekend. So it's the highest grossing animated opening of all time right now. But the movie, whereas fan service isn't really that great in wrestling, fan service for this movie was awesome. I saw so many Easter eggs and so many great things, potential for different franchises, like sprinkled all in it. I can't wait to see what they do.
I can't even lie. As soon as I came home from the movie, I bought Mario Party 10 and we just started playing. So it just makes you want to go play Switch right after.
Yeah. People were just so quick to assume it was going to be as bad as the Hoskins movie, like in '91. It was like, no, totally different setup, guys.
I like that movie.
Some people say they prefer that, and I don't get it.
I mean, Mario fan, I didn't mind that, but it wasn't what we had as a video game. And I think with the progress of time, it's been able to be made a lot better now.
I would love to see a Zelda movie. You got to make a Zelda movie.
Oh, right.
Zelda in that animation would be awesome, but I'm really holding out right now, especially with all the different signs of it in the movie. Punch Out. I want a Punch Out movie.
King Hippo.
Good luck with that. Hey, Aaron, take it home for me. My computer decided to run a Windows update that I did not schedule.
Of course not.
So please take the NoDQ review home for me tonight. You know what to do. Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This is NoDQ review number 232. And since Virtue is gone, we'll plug the merch website, nodq.com/merch. You can get the Virtue I'm Sorry shirt and many other great shirts, hats, all that good stuff over at nodq.com/merch. That is the NoDQ review number 232. Much love to the panel. Son, loving having you on. Hopefully you'll be back soon. Jerry, it's always a pleasure. Hopefully we get you back soon. Jeff, get well, my friend. Rest. Take it easy this week. And Walter, we always appreciate you being on. Very reliable. And almost 2 hours here, but that's to be expected with Jeff and Walter. And we also had some great topics. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Tell a friend. Spread the word. It's time for bed for me. It's almost 10 o'clock here. So have a great week, everyone. Take care. And, say yes to NoDQ.com. Spread the word. We will see you all next time.
Rest well, zombie Jesus.
Get the merch.
Feel merchy.